Hello everyone. So today we are going to see custom metadata with real-time scenarios. I'll try to make it very simple to understand so that you can understand each and everything in a much more clear way. So before going into theories, let's see a recipe book analogy which will help you in understanding the custom metadata with real-time scenarios. So there is a restaurant and the restaurant owner is quite happy because there are so many customers today. But the problem is they all order different recipe, right? Butter toast, bada pav, and all those kind of stuff. So it is quite important for the restaurant to maintain the quality of food which the restaurant is known for. So the restaurant has something called as the recipe book. We are going to see what it means in a second. So it contains the dish name and all the ingredients that it needs, cooking time, special instruction if any. Let's see paneer tikka masala, how to make it, what all ingredients we need, paneer, yogurt, bell peppers, and all those kind of stuff. To cooking time is usually 30 minutes, and if there is any special instruction, same for the other recipe. So the restaurant store all the dishes, ingredients, cooking styles, and instructions in a particular recipe book. So what is the use of this, right? So we are going to see it on the next slide. Data consistency. So your recipe book ensures that each dish is made in the same way every time, no matter which chef is cooking. Easily updatable. So the first one is like, so every time whenever you eat anything in a restaurant, you know what taste you are going to get because of past experience. And how restaurant is maintaining the same taste every time is because of the consistency, because they have a special list of ingredients, what they use and what are the cooking styles, right? So it maintains the consistency of food and taste for that particular restaurant. Easily updatable. If you decide to tweak a recipe, if you need to add some more masalas or more secret ingredients into your recipe, you can just update it in the book and all the chefs will follow the new instructions. Obviously we need to teach the chef as well how to make it. So why we are learning about this restaurant and all recipes? The answer is, just like a recipe book helps you efficiently manage and adjust the cooking process in a kitchen, custom metadata helps you manage and adjust key settings and rules in Salesforce environment. It provides a centralized, easily updatable way to keep things consistent and adaptable across organization. So I always say that definitions are like bullshit. You might not understand any of it, but I promise you, when you go through the complete video, you'll understand what is this definition means. So basically, if you want to say something is, custom metadata is something that can be reused in the system, that can be used in Apex class, validation rules, and all those stuff. You're going to see in next slide, but this is what custom metadata do. And I'll also tell you when to use custom metadata, when not to use custom metadata. So all those differences with custom settings you are going to get in this video. So now moving on to definition. Custom metadata types are like containers where you can store information that your Salesforce application needs. Moving ahead, it is similar to custom objects, but unlike regular data stored in custom objects, records of custom metadata types can be deployable between org. What it means is custom metadata is like custom object where you create the object definition, you create record, and you create fields of that custom objects. So just like that, it is similar as custom metadata types where you can first create the definition of custom metadata, you have to then create custom fields onto it, and then you have to create the records of custom metadata. But the difference is custom metadata can be deployable, but custom settings are not deployable. So we are going to create all the custom metadata in Salesforce, but here just try to understand how it is similar to custom object. So first we are creating a custom metadata where we name the custom metadata type as recipe, right? Because we understood the restaurant example, so we are building the same thing into Salesforce, and I'll also give you the end-to-end experience what and how this can be used to the actual chef and the restaurant owner, how this will be helpful. Here see, we created a recipe custom metadata type, and this is similar as creating the definition of custom object whenever we create. So I'm comparing everything so that you'll get a bit better picture of it. We have the object name, we have the API name. So in object, in the case of custom object, you have underscore C, but in case of metadata, you have underscore MDT. And now we have created some of the custom fields. So just like how you create the custom field in Salesforce, we have custom field in custom metadata as well. So here I created cooking time, ingredients, instruction, is a special. These are some of the custom fields, and you can see the data type of it. So you'll get to know the use of it in later part of this video. And now the just like in custom object, we first create definition and fields and then record of custom object. Just like that, we have to create the records of custom metadata type. So here we created a record name as pasta and the other one is pizza. So these are some of the dishes of the restaurant. So these are some of the example dishes of the restaurant. So now let's open Salesforce and try to build this custom metadata. Okay, so we need to go to setup first. Here you have to type custom metadata types. So now you have to click on new custom metadata. This is similar to creating new custom object. So I'm also comparing it side by side so that you get a better picture of it. Here we'll give the name, which is recipe in this case, and it should be recipes. Okay, I'll leave the rest field as it is and then click on save. So now we created the definition of custom object, or you can see custom metadata. So it has some standard fields, just like we have standard fields in Salesforce, like created by, last modified by, and all those fields are standard fields. But you can create your custom field as well, just like how you create custom field in custom objects. So let's create some of the fields. So first we are going to create cooking time, which can be of number data type, and here we can give name as cooking time, and then go to next and save and new, right? The next one we can add as ingredient list, which we can use like text up to 255 characters. We can name it like ingredient list, go to next, save and new. Next we can tell like if there is any special instructions. Okay, so here we have created 3 of the custom fields in the custom metadata, just like how we create custom field in Salesforce. And we also have validation rule. So you can set some kind of validation rule so that user cannot able to create a record of metadata records which you don't want. So just like you have the validation rule in custom object, it is similar to that. So on page layout, it is again similar to just like the custom object page layouts. You can create multiple page layout, the look of the field, the placement of the fields and all. But as of now we are keeping it as it is, and we are going to see how we can create the record of it. So in custom object, what you normally do, you create object, you create fields, and then you start creating the record of that custom object. So just like that, we need to create the record of custom metadata, right? So for that we have to click on manage recipes. If I click on manage recipes, you'll get a new button, and from here you can create the fields of the custom metadata. So label is the standard field. So in the label we are going to give the name of the recipe, right? So these two are standard fields here, and the recipe name can also be similar. The cooking time, you can give it as like according to your needs. Let's give it 30 minutes. The ingredients which we are using is, let's say, pizza, comma, and then tomato sauce, olive oil, and many more, but I'm just limiting it to this one. And then if we have any special instruction, we can add it over here. Let's say before serving. Okay, so this is one of the record that we have created. let's create another record. Let's say this time the recipe name is pasta, right? Cooking time would be, let's say, 30 minutes again. Ingredients would be and many more. And if there is any special instruction, we can give it as like lower. So now we have created two records, right? And if you want to see the records again, just go to custom metadata again. You can see the recipe custom metadata type. If you click on manage record, it will show you all the records that we have. So this page you might not be usually habituated to see, because normally we see the record as on the list view. Like if you open accounts and if you go to all accounts, these are the records of this account. But on the custom, we are usually habituated to seeing these kind of visual appearance, but in custom metadata it looks like this one. So this is one record, this is another record, which is similar to what a record which we have on Salesforce, right? So if you open it, it will show you what all the fields are there, what are the values of it, and you can see everything, right? So this is how we build the custom metadata types. Let's go ahead on to presentation and we'll see a few more things here. Okay, so this we have completed. Okay, now the thing is how we can fetch these data in Apex class or validation rules or anywhere else. So just like if you have seen my video on custom settings, I had shown you what only methods you need to remember in case of custom settings. So just like that, I have pointed out what only method you need to remember in case of custom settings, right? So these are three methods in case of custom metadata. So these are three methods which you don't actually need to remember it, because custom metadata has something called as the queries, right? So just like you query in, for the custom object, you can able to query custom metadata using custom SOQL queries as well. So it is always recommended, because here you don't need to remember anything. If you know the SOQL queries, how to write it and fetch data out of it, so you don't need these things, right? So that's why I'm not going much deep into these things. I'll only use SOQL query to show you, because you have to always use this one, right? Okay, so here you can see how to query. So first we need to give the API name. So let me clear it out so that you can see. First you need to give the API name, then you can name the variable anything, and then you can use the SOQL query. So these are what is the field of the custom metadata. We don't have is a special here, but this is only an example to show you. I'll show you in the Apex class as well how to write it. This is again the API name, where this I'll show you in Apex class as well how to write it. So let's open the developer console. So we are creating a new Apex class. Let's name it as custom. Okay, so this is the class. Here we can define a method. Let's name it as display recipe. And in this method we are passing the string name, which is the name of the recipe which we are searching, right? So the way to write the API name for metadata is __MDT, unlike the __C for custom object, right? And let's give it any name, recipe, and we have to write the query again. So let's fetch what all fields which we have in custom metadata, right? We have the recipe name, so we can fetch it like that. Okay, so in fact go back, and if you go to click on recipe again, you can see what all fields is there, right? So the first one is, you can either use a developer name or master label, anything you can use. So let's keep it simple, because this master label is the standard field. Let's fetch it here. Let's fetch the cooking time here. Let's fetch ingredient list and special instructions from okay, and you can give it the condition where master label is equal to the name which we are fetching. So this method is only giving, we have to provide the name of the recipe and it will show you the details of that recipe, right? So once we finish writing the SQL query, we have to debug it, right? So let's say if recipe not equal to null, because sometimes the user can enter any random value in the string as recipe name, but if it is not there, it will not display in the debug log. So if it is not there, in that case we can do it system.debug is recipe not found, right? But in case recipe is found, we can do system.debug and then first recipe name, which is same as the name here. Then we can do again system.debug for the ingredients, and we can show the ingredient list here. Okay, it is saying variable does not exist. Okay, this should be recipe dot ingredients. Yes, because the we are storing recipe into this variable, right? So it should be recipe dot name as well. So instead of name, we can put master label because master label has the same name as the recipe name, which is pizza or pasta, anything, right? So now let's try to save it. Okay, we are able to save it. Now what we need to do is we have to first I'm running it on the anonymous window to see if we are able to fetch the right data or not. So in the anonymous window, what we have to do, we have to first give the name of the class and then the name of the static method. If it is not static, you cannot call it, but since it is static, you can directly call it, and then you have to give the name of the dish. So let's say first we are giving any random thing which is not present in our system. It will show the recipe not found, because when you query it on the custom metadata, you don't find any recipe with this name, so it will show you recipe not found. Okay, so list has no rows for assignment to as object. Okay, so the issue here is like when we don't have any record in Salesforce, it will throw an exception that there is nothing to assign to this recipe, right? So in that case, we can, to avoid the exception, we can use try and catch block here. So let's do it. So I'll put everything inside try. So now if we are using try and catch, we don't need if statement, and inside the catch we can write this debug statement. Okay, so now what we have done is we put it inside try and catch block. So what will happen, let's understand one by one. If I give any value in the argument, if it is not present, it will throw an exception at this line only. So when the exception is thrown, it will go inside the catch block, right? And it will show the debug log. But if it found anything else, like if the recipe is found, it will show all the debug and the code will not run the catch block, right? So let's debug again. If I give it any random value and execute it, it is completed, but we can see the recipe is not found, right? Now if I give the name of the recipe which is present in the system and try to execute it, on the debug logs you can see pizza ingredients is these many, special instruction is this one, and cooking time is this one. So this is how we are going to fetch data from the custom metadata. So this might looks like a simple example, and it is obviously a simple example, but in a real life scenario we could use it in different use cases, right? One use case we are going to see in this video as well. So you can use these data. We are only debugging it right now to show it in the debug logs, but you can use this data to display in some other application. Let's say restaurant has their own application, so you can give data from this one to their application by fetching data from custom metadata. So that is one of the use case which you can use this custom metadata as well, right? So let's go ahead into our presentation. We'll try to run few more things about custom metadata. One more thing, querying custom metadata does not count against governor limits. So you know that in one transaction you cannot do more than 100 SQL query, right? If let's say in a code you have 50 SQL query which you are doing on custom object, and one SQL query you are doing on custom metadata. So the query which you are doing on custom metadata will not count against the governor limit. So governor limit for SQL query is 100, 50 you have done on custom objects, and one you have done on custom metadata. So it will still count it as 50, right? So 50% you have utilized of the limit that we have. So the query will not count against governor limits. This thing you need to remember. Let's go ahead. So use cases. Let's say by taking one of the use cases here, cook enters the recipes name through the restaurant app. Let's say restaurant have their restaurant application where the cook has to enter the name of the recipe. The system calls Salesforce. So that restaurant application will call Salesforce, right? Because they are integrated, and fetch information like recipes, cooking time, special instructions. So that can be done in the Apex class, just the way we did in our Apex class, right? So whatever data that Apex class fetch from custom metadata will again send it back to the restaurant app, and it will show all the details, right? So this is one of the use cases for which we can use custom metadata. The question is, why not we create custom record of custom object instead of creating custom metadata, right? So that is a right question. Why not we create a object which is called as recipe, and we create fields on that object itself, right? And then we create a record of that object that will still do the same purpose which we are doing, right? Let's see the answer first. Because records are not deployable to higher sandbox. So records of custom object is not deployable to higher sandbox. So if you want to deploy it from sandbox, dev sandbox to production sandbox or testing sandbox, right, to higher sandbox, you cannot deploy the record of custom object, right? Because you have to do the export first, and then you have to import it onto the higher sandbox, right? But in case of custom metadata, you can deploy it using change set, using VS Code or any other method of deployment that is pretty much deployable. Even the records of custom metadata is deployable. So let's go on to Salesforce, right? Let's go on to Salesforce and let's try to show this. So if I go to manage recipes, it will show you the record of custom object, custom metadata. So these will be deployed to higher sandbox from change set or VS Code, right? But if you see the record of accounts, these will not generally deploy to higher org. You have to export it first and then import it into higher sandbox. So that is the benefit of using custom metadata here. Also, why we are not doing the export and import thing is because this recipe is like quite something which is fixed in a restaurant, right? So even whatever recipe we have on dev, it should have been on testing, it should have been in production. So that is something which is fixed for every environment. So it is better to keep these data in a place where it can be modified easily, it can be deployed easily. That's why in this case we opt for custom metadata instead of creating custom object record, right? Okay, moving ahead. Key features. Custom metadata records can be deployed. This we already seen, unlike custom settings. So in custom settings, the record of custom setting is not deployable to higher org, right? Supports field level security, validation rule, page layouts for advanced configuration, right? So it has field level security. You can set security like which profile can able to view it. You can set validation rule just like you have in custom object. You can create page layouts as well. You can create relationships between custom metadata types and other objects. So let's say you want to create a lookup field where the parent is account and the child is custom metadata. So you can pretty much do those kind of thing, right? So you can create relationships like lookup and master detail relationship. Okay, now let's see the differences of custom metadata with custom settings. If you have not seen my video of custom settings with real-time scenarios, just click on this link in the top right corner, or you can check in the description as well. There I have explained it in very easy manner, right? So let's see the differences of custom metadata and settings. Deployable, not deployable. Custom settings is not deployable. Governor limits unlimited SQL queries because it does not count against the governor limits, limited to 100 records per query. So custom settings has that limit, right? Field types. So custom metadata supports complex field like lookup, master detail, and all those kind of fields, but custom settings does not support those relationships, right? You can have unlimited access of queries in Apex classes, but in case of custom settings, data cached for efficiency, right? Support for hierarchy, no, and yes in case of custom settings. So again, you can refer my old video of custom settings where I have went through this custom settings, hierarchy custom settings, and how to create it. Public accessibility, always accessible to all the profiles, controllable by profile and user. Again, you can go ahead and check my custom settings video on it. Use in formula field, no, you cannot use custom metadata in formula fields, but custom settings you can use. Use in validation rule, you can use both of them in the validation rules, right? So this is some of the key differences between custom metadata and custom settings. Now the question is, please tell me when to use what. That is a pretty genuine question of this person, right? So use custom metadata when you need to deploy setting across orgs, require relationships and complex data types, and need a single source of truth for configuration data across environments, which is very clear now. Definitions I always say are bullshit, but now as you have went through my video, now this definition is kind of making sense. Use of custom settings when you need fast org specific settings that vary by user or profile, and you don't need data to be deployed or shared between organizations, right? So if you need any kind of settings that vary for different user or different profile, in that case you can use custom settings. And again, you can check my custom settings video where I have created hierarchy custom settings, so you'll understand it in a bit more better way. So this is about custom metadata. So like all my videos, I try to make things very easy and try to explain everything with the help of examples, so that you won't be having any doubt. But if you do have any doubts, please let me know in the comment section. I'll try to reply on it, and if needed, I'll make a video on it as well.